Hi guys, my name's Andrew Berkey and I'm the operations manager for Jamestown Area Ambulance. Today I want to walk you through one of our more challenging calls in the out-of-hospital setting, and that's out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. And the reason I want to walk you through one of these calls is to help explain what we do on one of these calls, because some of it, might raise a lot of questions. It might not be obvious why we're doing what we're doing. But I also want to share information on how our community can better assist us on these calls. So the national survival rate for out-of-hospital cardiac arrest is right around 10%, and it's been that way for a really long time. But we know that the better we are at this, the more skilled we are, and the more educated, not just us as providers are, but our community as well, the better outcomes we can get. When you look at places like King County, Seattle, who spends a lot of time, energy, and money on educating the public, they have some of the best out-of-hospital survival rates in the entire world. So we need to look at what they're doing, and we need to share that with our local communities. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to walk you through one of these calls and kind of stop and pause and talk about what we're doing as providers while explaining to you what you can be doing to help us in these situations. And believe it or not, there's actually a lot you can do that can help us out in these moments. All right, guys, let's go. When responding to a cardiac arrest, I think it's important to touch on a couple different things. Number one, we will be responding with our lights and sirens. Now, contrary to popular belief, our lights and sirens do not save us that much time. But what we do know is they increase the likelihood of colliding with another vehicle or being involved in an accident. Lights and sirens make our job much more dangerous, and not often do they actually benefit us. But because every second truly does matter in a cardiac arrest, that is the way that we will respond to these calls. Now, what's important for the community to understand is that when the lights and sirens are going and you see us, it's important that you very calmly and slowly pull over to the right. We don't want anyone making any sudden movements, getting scared, anxious, stepping on the brakes in front of us. Okay, we will be mindful of your space. We just need you to slowly move to the right and let us by. So as we are responding to these scenes, it's important that we are able to see where we are going as clearly as possible. If we're going to a residence or a business, it's important that the building number is in a well-lit area, especially if it's dark out, that the numbers are big enough, high enough in the air so that nothing is blocking them. It's really important that we can see where we're going.
Okay.
When EMS providers first arrive on scene, there's a ton of information that they need to gather quickly. They might be asking you a lot of questions such as, what did you see? Was the patient alert and awake before he went unresponsive? Were compressions started immediately? Was an AED placed prior to our arrival? And if so, did it defibrillate or shock the patient? They might ask about patient medical history. There is a lot of information that these guys are going to try and gather, and as much as they can get, the more they can get, the more beneficial it becomes to trying to figure out what could have caused this cardiac arrest. Simultaneously, they need to be checking the patient and making sure, checking for whether or not the patient's breathing, whether or not they have a pulse, and if, CPR or compressions need to be continued.
So we have Bishop. Okay.
The Lucas device is a somewhat newer device that many community members or members of the public might not know that ambulance services carry. The Lucas is a plunger type device that goes on top of the patient's chest, and it provides incredible chest compressions. It goes 2 inches deep. It allows for full recoil, and best of all, it does not get tired. CPR is a very physical task, and it is easy to tire out quickly and compromise compressions. And in the case of cardiac arrest, nothing is more important than high quality chest compressions.
For me.
See, the provider performing here is called an intubation, or also known as an endotracheal intubation. This involves passing a tube down the trachea with a small balloon at the end of it. This is a step up from an i-gel or other advanced airways because this device can actually protect the airway from things like vomit and foreign objects. It doesn't allow for as much gastric distension or air filling the stomach. This is just a better standard of airway. Once the paramedic has the medications taken care of and other things that need to happen in a cardiac arrest, they're going to attempt this airway if they feel it is appropriate or beneficial. You can see how much attention they are giving the airway because it's really that important. Off to the right, you can see a suction device that's going to be used to get any foreign material out of the airway. You have one provider holding the tube in place while they secure it with a Thomas tube holder, and another EMT who's taking care of the ventilation. Outside of this, we have medications to worry about like epinephrine, amiodarone. We have the cardiac monitor that's going to read these cardiac rhythms for us and tell us whether or not we're going to defibrillate these patients. There really is a lot going on. Now we get to a more complicated part of this situation. You might have wondered when EMS providers first arrived on scene, they did not immediately package the patient and prepare for transport. And that's because most major studies are showing us that we have better patient outcomes when we sit still and we run this cardiac arrest. Advanced life support ambulance services carry every cardiac medication and are capable of performing almost every major intervention that an emergency room can perform. And if we immediately transport the patient, we are not paying attention to high quality compressions, and that is the key to positive outcomes. So EMS providers are going to stay still in most cases, run the cardiac arrest, and if pulses return in what we call return of spontaneous circulation, then it's time to package the patient and prepare for transport. And that is a cardiac arrest simulation, or what we call megacode training. Some other important things to note is that the more community members that are trained in CPR, the better outcomes we are going to get. We really do need bystanders to intervene in compressions immediately if we're going to get these survival outcomes. So if you haven't taken a CPR class before, call us, get signed up, we'll get you through a class. But that truly is the life-saving skill needed in these situations. Beyond that, communicate as best as you can to us if you're on one of these scenes with us, and we will really do the rest. And if we need help, we will ask you. These are very high pressure situations and there's a lot of stuff going on. So whatever assistance we can get, we're always really appreciative of it.